you'll talk to me, then I'll introduce her, and then we'll.
I'm gonna say, hi, I'm Yada Yada. I might not even say I'm Yada Yada, but I'm gonna say that the subject today is jazz, and who better to talk about jazz than the one and only John Brathwaite, and he has a special guest that he's gonna introduce, and from there it's rock and roll.
Okay.
Sounds easy.
Jazz.
Sounds easy. Improvise.
Right. Yeah, so I'll introduce myself.
Cool.
Shoot it to you. Yeah, they'll let me know.
Give us the countdown.
Well, it's going to post, so as soon as they're recording and got my face on there.
Setting up.
Yeah, as soon as they set it up,
Setting up the.
I should see my face in there, and then I'll just turn to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me see my shot on program just to make sure that comes up, so I'll know when we're starting. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, you can go back to black. Yes, no, you don't need the opening. Right, that's what I'm gonna do. As soon as I see my face, I'll turn to the camera and start talking. Bingo, I just saw my face, so I'm gonna turn to this camera and start talking. Hi there, I'm Nat Wood, as some of you may know, some of you may not. Today the subject is jazz, and I can't think of a better person to have on discussing the subject of jazz than the one, the only John Brathwaite. And John has a very, very special guest who's going to talk to you also. And we're all going to learn and have a real good time. With that, I would like to say, my brother, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Excellent.
Glad to be here. As you know, I'm president of PJS Jazz Society in Mount Vernon, and we've been doing jazz in Lower Westchester, and actually the tri-state area, but the headquarters in Lower Westchester for the last 6 years. Next April we'll complete our 37th year. And we started our season already, and we're going on with just a great season of musicians. We get led off with Houston Person. Larry Ridley was our second artist. He'll be there October 9th.
Larry Ridley, nice.
And we follow that
And
with
Houston Person, also nice.
We follow that with Louis Hayes. And then we go on to Alan Harris. In the spring, we have Steve Kroom, Antonio Hart, Jazzmobile Horn, and Bobby Sanabria. Now,
Wow.
the way we do this series is, it's been called the Second Sunday Jazz Series since we began. And there's a long story there. But I'd like to introduce my special guest because she is head of one of the biggest things in New York in jazz and for the last several years, and that is Robin Bell Stevens, director of Jazzmobile.
Nice, nice. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, John, for that introduction. And I should just also say, as we're talking about PJS Jazz Society, that's actually how John and I met. My late mother was one of the early members of the PJS Jazz Society, and about 6 years ago, she recruited me to get on the board. So even though I was living in the city, you know, Mount Vernon was my home. So I certainly said yes. And then since then, I'm very happy to have been asked by the board to work with them in terms of booking a lot of the talent that we're presenting now, the PJS Second Sunday Jazz Series, which is, from my point of view, so therefore I'll be bold enough to say from Jazzmobile's point of view, it's probably the most, or certainly one of the most important jazz organizations in Westchester County for sure. Because if you take a look, I mean, John just gave you the lineup for this particular season, but if you take a look at who's been there, you can say Wynton Marsalis, you can say my late father, Aaron Bell, who played with Duke Ellington, you can say Jimmy Heath, you can say Wycliffe Gordon, and on and on and on. So there is hardly a jazz musician, male or female, instrumentalist or vocalist who has made a mark in this industry called jazz that hasn't performed at PJS. So I'm very proud to be a part of that, and very grateful that I'm here to you today and I can tell you a little bit about Jazzmobile.
You flatter me. Jazz is so much part and parcel to our culture. It is so sophisticated, so cerebral, so integral a part to our development that just being able to get it out there and bring us back to the place, help to bring us back to the place that we need to be if we are going to reach our the destiny that we set out for ourselves, is an honor for me. Don't gloss over what you're doing. Let people know exactly how they can participate, where they can participate, and what's in store for them in the future.
Well, our concerts are always on the second Sunday of the month from September to April of the following year. It's been called the second Sunday of the month ever since we began. And how to participate, that's the date. The venue is at the First Presbyterian Church in Mount Vernon, the Parish Hall, which we've converted to a cabaret setting, and we present the jazz there. The building is an old building. It's been there for a very long time, over 50 years, and you can't miss it because it's at the corner of Lincoln and Columbus. It's the biggest thing on the corner. So it's easy to get to, and we even have an auxiliary parking for our guests at the school next door. And I think that people, when they come there, are surprised at how congenial it is and how relaxed it is and so on. But they're in for a treat, especially if they've never been there before. And I find that most evenings at the end of a concert, people who have not been there before are so excited about having come and said, wow, I had a great time. I didn't think about this, and or I wasn't aware of this, but I'm certainly going to come back again. And that's what we like to hear, because we know we've done our homework. And thanks to Robin and her assistants, we have been growing, and our concerts have been very well attended. And we're very pleased with the results. We just want to give people more exposure to new artists or artists they might not have heard of or been familiar with. And when they do hear them and they see it, yeah, this is just what I'm looking for. This is great music. That sort of helps us along.
What I would add to that, if I may, just talking about the concerts, the other thing that we're very much aware of, Billy Taylor, who's the founder of Jazzmobile, of course, and who was one of my mentors in the industry. I used to jokingly say he and I used to also, Billy and I used to produce the Jackie Robinson Foundation Afternoon of Jazz concerts. And I used to always say, okay, so Billy, you, me, and Rachel Robinson, we're going to live forever, but just in case, we need to get that younger audience in there. Right. So taking that model, if you will, one of the things that we also do at PJS is that we also have as an opening act a young group. And it may be a college group from CNR, the College of New Rochelle, or some other young musicians that are performing. They'll actually start performing at 5 o'clock. And then, so again, so they come, and hopefully a lot of their friends will also come. So we're introducing them to these professional jazz artists that are also playing the music. But then the other good thing about it also is that it gives them a chance to say that, yes, I was in an opening act for Wycliffe Gordon, Jimmy Heath. Right. So it helps to build their own personal portfolio, as well as helping us build our audiences at the same time. And then what's also nice about the PJS Second Sunday is that you get 2 sets. So we hit, the first set is at 6:15.
Yeah, 6:15.
Right? Mm-hmm.
And they end about 7:30. They take a break and they go from 8 to 9.
Exactly.
And we feel that's wonderful.
Yeah, and you can't beat the price, which is very reasonable. I don't know, can we talk about the price on your show?
Well, no, yeah, I
okay,
don't think
we
you're
won't.
supposed to
Okay,
mention
we won't.
prices.
We won't do that.
We won't. Okay.
However, if you have a website or something, we are at perfectly at liberty to tell them where they could go to.
We are pjsjazz.org.
Right. Okay.
And that's our webpage. We're also on Facebook, so you can find us there too.
Nice.
But if you come to the webpage, you'll see the information.
PJS, like Peter, John, Simon.
Yeah.
.org.
Now, there's a story behind that.
Okay.
Because originally, the way it came to be is the pastor of the church was a fellow who really, really, did I say really, liked jazz. He had a huge collection, which you still have. And he wanted to have what's today called jazz vespers, jazz in the service.
Wow.
And this is way back in 1980.
Wow, that's deep.
Now, what happened is the church congregation was mostly majority people, and they didn't like that idea too well. But he was determined, so he decided that if I can't have jazz in the service, I will take it out and make a separate organization. And that organization became the Presbyterian Jazz Society. And the concert series was known as the Second Sunday Jazz Series. And that name has stayed with it till this day. And the only reason is clerical thing. When we were setting up our 501c3, we changed it from Presbyterian Jazz Society, which is a bit of a mouthful,
right,
to PJS Jazz Society.
Right.
And there we are.
Now, Robin, I got to get to you primarily because I know that your stay with us, your time is limited. You're kind of busy. My loss. You have had to have a certain amount of tenacity to hang in there with the Jazzmobile because the culture of music has not been kind to classical modes of art for the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years. One of the problems with jazz has to be the fact that the people that say they don't like it are people who have no understanding of what it is or how diverse it is. You mentioned Billy Taylor. Billy Taylor was just sweet as sugar. It's impossible not to like Billy Taylor. If you listen to Billy Taylor, it's just like it's like magic. It's like Duke Ellington would say, I don't play, I dream, or something like that. You know, that's
right,
the kind of thing that Billy Taylor brought to the equation. And if you get with it, it's kind of impossible not to. Like I said, it's impossible not to like Billy Taylor.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
you know,
Literally. No,
literally.
No, it's very true. It's very true. And as far as you talk about Billy Taylor, and I had briefly mentioned Rachel Robinson's name earlier. She and I, back in the Jackie Robinson Afternoon Jazz days, we would often go to the clubs to hear musicians play. And I can remember whenever we went to hear Billy Taylor play, she and I sit there like this the whole time, playing that beautiful, sweet music the way only he could play it. So you're absolutely right. And then, of course, he's the founder of Jazzmobile, which was founded in 1964, along with the actual institution was founded along with a woman named Daphne Ornstein, who was also founded the Harlem Cultural Center, and which was the place where Jazzmobile was actually born. So she brought the administrative part of it to the table, and he, of course, brought the artistic side. But when he started doing the Saturday afternoon jazz program, which was one of our signature education programs, and the lecture dems, and the free mobile concert series that we're most known for, he reached out to his good buddy Jimmy Heath. So Jimmy Heath, so Billy Taylor was the one who told me that part of the story. He said, everyone always talks about me and Daphne, but Jimmy Heath was right there in the beginning when we started doing the programming side. So you will now see him included as one of our co-founders. But you're right, jazz music, you know, is no longer the pop culture of its time, if you will, right? And it's had its ebb and flow, its rise and fall in terms of appeal. But myself, not being a jazz musician, but a real lover of the music, I mentioned my late father played bass at Duke Ellington, and so I knew early on, I mean like 8 years old, that I wanted to find a way to be a part of this music when I grow up.
Right.
So I eventually became a producer, and now I'm a Jazzmobile, and as you alluded to and almost actually said, the challenge that we have is getting the level of support for the music that we love so much. Fortunately for us, Billy Taylor, Daphne, Jimmy Heath had a vision for an organization of bringing the music to the people. And it was imperative that it be free to the public. He used to always say, the concerts are free, but we pay the musicians. And when we were founded in '64, because you were in the urban center, Harlem, and then eventually branched out to the other boroughs, there was a lot of government money available. And then because of Billy and Daphne's contacts with a couple of beer companies and Colgate-Palmolive, we got corporate support for the concerts, the free concerts that we were doing. The challenge that I faced when I took over the organization's leadership about 10 years ago was that the climate had changed in terms of the love of the music, the amount of grants that were coming out. And there were now other organizations that were also providing quality, high quality, free jazz programming. So it was a little harder for us. But the biggest challenge I found was not in getting the audience to come, because Harlem is our base.
Right.
We're going into Brooklyn, we're going into the Bronx, Queens, and on invitation we also go to Staten Island. And we're invited to come by a community when we go into the outer boroughs. Or we have a partnership or a collaboration with another art and cultural organization and the Parks Department, which has been a mainstay partner from day one. So getting the audience has not been our challenge. Getting the financial support for the organization has been our biggest challenge. Because Billy and Daphne had a vision of it being by the people, of the people, and for the people, there was never thought put into creating a board of directors that could open up a checkbook, or could pick up a phone, or send a text, or to get donors to come in that way. So we've always had the community support. The challenge has been being able to get higher net worth individuals, if you will. Although there have been times when we've been able to get that kind of support, but it's getting that kind of support at the board level, because that's when you can sustain, that's when the sustainability of a board and of an organization becomes more viable. So we've been here 53 years. Just last week, we were honored by the Congressional Black Caucus with John Conyers', he gives this annual jazz, so he presented Jazzmobile with the Jazz Legacy Award, which was absolutely a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us. And I got to produce the concert, half of the concert was produced by Jazzmobile. So I put together Jimmy Heath, no, I'm sorry, not Jimmy. Well, actually, I'll be honest, I wanted Jimmy Heath, but he was on his way to Germany that day. So I got a pretty good substitute, one of his proteges, Antonio Hart, who is an amazing saxophone player. On piano, we had Danny Mixon, who is also a Jazzmobile artist and one of our instructors. On bass, we had Larry Ridley. Again, early on, was one of the instructors in the Jazzmobile program and also is one of our artists. On drums, Bernard Harper. Of course, from the Billy Taylor Trio, also one of our educators, also one of our artists. And then on trumpet, Mr. Jimmy Owens, who was also honored that night. Again, an NEA jazz master, as well as a Jazzmobile artist, and also part of the early days of our programming. And on vocals, Miss Sharnae Wade.
Wow.
I'm a major fan of Sharnae. It's actually of all of them, but Sharnae, she is the newest member of the family, if you will. And she also competed in our Jazzmobile vocal competition. She's been a judge in our vocal competition, and she's also been an instructor with our vocal classes for the Saturday Jazz Workshop. So it was like a big family kind of experience. And then I came back that Monday, and very happy to say that the Hot House magazine presented me with the 2016, it's a long title, Hot House Magazine Reader's Choice, is that right? Yes, Jazz of the Year Award.
Wow.
Very long, yes. And they
Big statue.
Big, yeah,
No,
right. But what's very nice about it, two things. One, it was presented by the previous winner, who was Jack Kleinsinger, who was a big supporter of jazz for sure. And they had my daughter come to introduce me, and that was a surprise to have her come up and talk about her mom. So it was great. So what we're trying to do is to leverage, if you will, that kind of exposure now as we continue to find new supporters for the music. When we get those kinds of recognition, you know, it's wonderful to have. But the real value for us, again, with an organization that has 99% free programming, is how do you leverage that into financial support to sustain your organization so you can do more of what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
At the risk of being political, I'll do it, and I'll save you from it. But one of the challenges, one of the biggest challenges that we have as a community, and I've been told I got to let you go, but I don't want to. But one of the biggest challenges that we have as a community is valuing ourselves and what we do.
Right.
When jazz was at its apex, it was a global phenomenon. It was the music of not just black people, not just America, but a global phenomenon.
That's right.
There is no problem with white people, be it white billionaires or white artists, supporting those people whose legacy they rely upon. You don't have any problem getting young country singers to run and get Willie Nelson or Dolly Parton to be on their album. They, I mean, they revel in it. You don't have any problem getting billionaires like the Koch brothers funding Carnegie Hall or their arts. You don't have any problem filling up a major auditorium, concert auditorium, if you bring in Anna Nebretko or a classical singer or ballet. However, my community has gotten to a place, my children, my younger brothers and sisters, the way we have gone, everyone sees more value in us than we do. As a result, there's a lot of people, I'm not going to name any names because that's crass, but there's a lot of us who have some loose change, who are doing well. Some of us have made a lot of money, but we don't spend the kind of time supporting our arts and our artists, our legacy that other cultures and communities do. And there is it's a challenge getting them to recognize that we are a link in a chain, and that chain is not our competition that we should back away from. That is our strength that we should embrace.
That's right.
So how do we get people who have maybe been successful in other forms of music, who are younger, who have made some money? How do we get them to understand that this is your music, this is where your legacy comes from, this is where your art form comes from?
That's right.
Go ahead.
No, I'm going to say, I think you're absolutely right. That has been my observation as well. I like to remind, I tell stories, like if you come to Grant's Tomb on a Wednesday, you might, if you haven't heard the story once, you probably heard it 5 times, in fact, which is the fact that there's a wonderful lady by the name of Janet Combs, whose son used to come to Grant's Tomb on Wednesdays because Mommy brought him almost every Wednesday till he was about 10 or 11 and hit middle school and wanted to hang with his boys. So, you know, Sean Combs has come there. Sean Combs's daughter, 2 of his daughters, his twin daughters, have come because Grandma brought them when she was living in New York. So the question is, you know, how do we get them engaged to want to support the music? So I guess it's about, you know, it's not always the ask, it's the messenger, you know. How do you get to these people to you know, get them to do that, to support your organization? And Jazzmobile doesn't have entree to them. I mean, Jay-Z, I was told, you know, Jay-Z is short for Jazzy, right? So, right? So he knows about jazz a little bit, I would imagine. And you're right. I think that there's got to be some way that we can find to have them support a grassroots organization, because we want to stay true to who we are, and by that I mean to the legacy that Billy Taylor built when he had this vision to do Jazzmobile. And how do we get the people that you're mentioning to know about us? Now, some of the people that we're thinking of support larger institutions like Jazz at Lincoln Center.
Right.
And I'm happy to say I'm a former director of marketing and creative services for Jazz at Lincoln Center. So I know the value of that organization. They do what they do, but they don't do what we do. Right. And I
also think they do it because it's impressive to white folks, and so they kind of are brought in screaming and kicking, you know. Like, I'll support something, but it has to be like white people approved. And if they think it's like a charity or an organization that is somehow grander than just negritude.
And another way that I would respond to that is it goes back to who's the messenger, right? Because
very good.
Right, because he Jazz at Lincoln Center, what's their last name?
Right.
Lincoln Center.
Right.
So their core audience came from Lincoln Center, because when I was there, it was at the time when they were getting ready to build this house of swing that Winton was calling it. And part of my job in that role was to sort of talk about, okay, so who's going to come, what kind of studies do we need to do to identify who's going to come, and by the way, do you even know who your audience is? And at that point, they couldn't tell me. So that was one of the things that we did. We did do a study to identify who that audience is. My point of view is, Jazz at Lincoln Center, please do well. All of you who are supporting Jazz at Lincoln Center, please continue to support it. I put bad things in the past. Had they failed last year, what would we be hearing? Even Winton couldn't get Jazz at Lincoln Center to survive. So how are y'all going to do it? You know what I'm saying? So, and again, their audience is not my audience. Quite honestly, had they failed last year, and they didn't, so they're still here, they're doing great. But the reality is, I've been here 53 years. They've been here a shorter period of time. So history says that no matter what happens to the Jazz at Lincoln Center, San Francisco Jazz, Jazz Foundation of America, any one of those organizations, we're still going to be here, is our belief, because we've been here 53, going on 54. And my personal mission, as I'm looking at the time, is
I've monopolized your time, and they're cussing me out with hand signals.
But my personal mission at the age of 15 was real simple, and around this music, is that I wanted jazz to reach critical mass. And the way I defined it at 15 is that there are two tracks. On one track is education, where jazz music is taught in every school in the country. I don't care if it's public, private, parochial, or homeschool. And jazz is a major part of a music curriculum in every school. And on the other track, every adult is spending some portion of their disposable income on a monthly basis supporting the industry. The musicians, come to my free concerts, but send me a check. Come to my free concerts, but go hear Jimmy when he's at Blue Note. Go hear Jeremy Pelt when he's playing at Smoke. So support the music that way. Write a check to WBGO, Jazz at Lincoln Center. As long as, until all of y'all are doing that, we haven't reached critical mass. And as fabulous as Jazzmobile is, we can't do it by ourselves.
And if you uppity people feel comfortable in dropping almost $1,000 to take your girlfriend to see a Broadway play, you can certainly support your legacy.
There you go. And my website is www.jazzmobile.org.
That camera that's number 3.
Number 3. If you'd like to support Jazzmobile, please visit us at www.jazzmobile.org and click on Donate. Thanks.
Excellent. We're gonna sneak you out of here.
Great,
I want to thank you. I'm going to get you back here, and I also want to make sure that we bring some people in. Veronica, you could come around and unhook her mic for her, help her out. And while we're getting you out of here, I'm sorry I kept you, but I'd do it again. Just come on around. Just come on around. We're going to post-production. If we see you and you're doing the edit, if you don't know how to cut your own self out.
That's just live. I'm so stuck. You were excellent. Excellent. To meet you.
She's really, really, really.
Oh, wait a minute. minute, the mic is still on.
No.
You can cut that out too. You're doing the edit. If you're in their own edit, you deserve to be.
Great, great.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thanks.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Maybe I'll see you in the neighborhood.
Oh, yes, you will. Yes, you will. Yes, you will.
care.
Excellent. Thank you for coming by. All right. All right. We're just going to let them,
Unhook and
yeah.
detach.
Turn her mic off. Did you turn her mic off? Okay. All right. As soon as you are ready, we'll start back with. There you go. She just stole a chair. That's very nice. That's very
So
nice.
where we can go discussion-wise?
You can talk about PJS. You can talk about how we support. I mean, we can go where. Yeah.
Good things to think about and talk about.
Yeah. Some of the things you're coming up